The Bobby O Show.
Welcome to the Bobby O Show. My name is Bob Potzner. This happens to be my 50th show in the Bobby O genre. I did other shows under different topics, but it's number 50, and that's very appropriate because I have a very special guest who is the person who's been in the most of my shows, and that's Michele Phillips. We also know as the Light Lady. Today's show is going to be about, it's a new year. We're going to talk about attitudes and dealing with the new year and maybe turning the page and having new happiness in our lives, and also dealing with some things that may not be so great in one's life and how to best handle that. And I want to start also by saying condolences to the family of former President Jimmy Carter, who was maybe not so adored when he was president for reasons beyond his control. Like the Iran hostages situation, but over the time since his presidency, he became more and more and more loved. He wrote 32 books. He was very heavy in Habitat for Humanity, and we all should be thankful for having a person of integrity, character in the White House. Michele Phillips, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me, and happy anniversary. The 50th show is a big deal.
That's right. In fact, there's a fire engine going by right now celebrating for me. Michele, even though you've been on the show many, many times, can you just, like in a minute or so, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you do, and why you're so uplifting in terms of writing and lecturing, etc.?
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Basically, I work with individuals and teams to get rid of barriers and help them create new mindsets, new actionable behaviors so that they actually get better results. I like to say energize your results. And I help people take their power back, write their own outcome. And I do that again in corporations, with individuals and teams.
And today we're going to talk about a topic, and Michele and I always talk in advance about the things we're going to talk about on the show. And essentially our theme today, Michele, is what?
Our theme today is new beginnings and focusing on what you control. It's January, so, we all kind of say, oh, New Year's resolutions, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There is something scientifically proven that human beings like fresh starts. We like to say, oh, it's my birthday, so it's going to be a new year. It's a new calendar year. What I want to stress on today's program is every day is a fresh start. Every hour is a fresh start. So if you're getting the results you want in your life, high five. If not, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to start to do differently? Because if you don't do anything differently, the next 5 years will be exactly the same as the last 5 years. So that's what we want to talk about. What are some small, easy steps people can take to get energize their results, get better results.
And interestingly enough, those of us who are Jewish who celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, during that 10-day period of time from beginning Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, it's a time to think about who you are and what you are. And on Yom Kippur, you're supposed to apologize to those who you've sinned against, not just go and say to someone, I'm sorry, I hurt Michelle's feelings, but you go to Michele and say, hey, Michele, I apologize for what has been done. So it ties in together with the calendar for what we're having January of 2025 with what many religions do. So let's start off right away talking about how one goes about deciding what needs to be done to get a fresh start, Michele.
Yeah, it's so simple and we make it too complicated. And that's everything I do. I want to make easy. Sometimes I say to people, just what do you want? Decide what you want and write it down. Decide what you want and write it down. It can be that simple. The reason people don't get what they want in their life is because they're too vague and they don't know what they want. They say things like, I want to be rich. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. Well, we all want those things. What does wealth look like for you? What does health look like for you? What does happiness? So it's really defining it and almost working backwards. So instead of saying, I want to exercise more, you could say, I want to have, I want to be a certain weight. I want to increase my muscle mass. I want to cut down on calories. And then you work backwards from the goal.
The movie It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart,
Yeah.
right? Everyone who has friends is rich.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about how much money you have. Doesn't matter how many dollars the billionaire have, whether you're Zuckerberg or any of these other people who are billionaires trying to tell us how to run our lives. It's about your contacts, your connection with people. And there's a book that I read by a very famous author whose name is Michele. Well, that's you. That's you. Happiness is a habit.
Yes, it is.
And it's a very good book. In fact, mine is even personally inscribed, I must say. And I've gone through a couple chapters in preparation for today that I think tie into what you just said, Michele. And one of them, it's chapter number 3. I'm not sure if that's the same habit number, but I'm going to chapter number 3. And it says the topic is, don't ask what the world needs. Don't ask what the world needs. And that was, I guess, a quote from Howard Thurman. I'm not sure who Howard Thurman is. Do you know who Howard Thurman is?
I'm not either, but I've used that quote for many years. And let's read the whole thing because it's just such a powerful quote. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So what people don't realize, we make it too hard for ourselves. Your path, I always say, follow the energy. When you follow what feels good to you, that's healthy feeling good, right? Like when you know you're on the right track and things are working out for you, that's usually the path to your most happiness, your wealth, your health. So what we try to do is think, what do people need? And it's like the movie The Graduate. I know you could relate, right? What should I do with my life? Plastics.
Plastics.
He says to him, plastics. Everyone's making money in plastics. But if you don't like plastics, you're going down the wrong path. So again, I always ask people to really say what they want. What do you want? And then define it as specifically as you can. Even if you just notice, if you say, I want to be happier. Well, I want to notice the times I'm laughing. I want to notice the time I'm having a good time with friends. I want to start to notice in my life moments of joy and then consciously recreate those.
Elaine. That's, of course, from The Graduate when he runs to get his woman. And it's interesting because that's an example. We had not discussed The Graduate. You and I.
It just came up.
But I can picture him running. His car runs out of gas. Dustin Hoffman, his car runs out of gas. He runs to the church where his love is getting married to someone else, and he's pounding on the doors. And you got to give the guy credit because he asked what he needed to do for himself and decided to go after it. Does that tie in, Michele?
Don't we love those? That we love those outcomes in movies with that big gesture where someone actually, puts their heart on the line, puts their life on the line, says, "This is so important to me. I'm going for it." The problem with most people is we're too afraid. We live in fear of judgment, fear of failing. I mean, even you said the quote earlier. I forget what you said, but it reminded me of the quote. About making atonement, right? And if you think of atonement in the Jewish religion or any religion, it's at one-ment, atonement. Am I at one with me? So apologizing to other people is one thing, but are you being kind to yourself? Are you apologizing for how hard you've been on yourself? And, realizing that this is a fresh start and people do like fresh starts. So everything behind you is what I like to say, dry cement. It's over, it's done, finito, el fin, you can't go back. But right in front of you is all this wet cement. So what do you want to do with your wet cement, right? So stop looking backwards. What do you want when it comes to your health, your wealth, your relationships, your finances, your playtime, your community efforts, and then start to make a plan and little tiny incremental steps. It's not about big leaps. It's about small steps consistently.
And isn't it also about opening your eyes and appreciating what's right in front of you? There's a short story from years ago. I think it was written by a guy named Colonel Ingersoll. But essentially the theme was somebody wanted to find happiness in life. He wasn't happy in his life. And so he left his backyard, wherever he was living, and went around the world. And then he came back at the end and found out that, everything I want is right in front of me. I just didn't notice it. So I don't know if you have a chapter in your book called Open Your Eyes, but is that sort of part of the equation?
It is, because it's a mindset, it's a perspective. So, looking at your surroundings right now, is your perspective that you like where you are, you don't like where you are? If you like where you are, again,
Michelle, I think Michelle, I think you froze.
and I just lost us for a
Michelle,
second. Okay,
I think
back.
you froze for a second, but I think
Yeah.
you're talking about, last thing I heard was, do you like where you are?
Yeah. So if you like where you are, bravo. If you don't like where you are in life, whether it's anything, career, family, pick a goal, pick a area of your life, then it's just appreciating that where you are is okay. Where I am is leading me to something new. Where I am is teaching me something new. And if you could find appreciation where you are, in the last week, just in the last week, I really was appreciating. I saw a rainbow, an eagle flying over my car, a hawk, and my husband and I both shared. We witnessed a falling star the other night. And that comes from slowing down and being appreciative. And again, if you're rushing and running, and that's so normal in our culture, you miss what's right in front of you.
Well, did you make a wish for that falling star? Did you make a wish? I
I don't know
think
what's
Michelle
happening. Is that
mentioned,
me or you?
uh,
I don't
I
know.
think it might be you, but in any event,
Uh-huh.
did you make a wish for that falling star?
We did, but it was so we were sitting in the backyard, and also we just looked at each other and went, "Oh, did you see that?" And like we both saw it, and it lasted like a pretty long time, and it was bright and spectacular. But just the magic of catching something like that, when you're not expecting it, but you need to really be present and open to see those things. So there's a lot of interweaving in what we're saying, but at the end of the day, you have all the power. I really, my goal is to teach people to take their power back, stop putting it in the hands of other people, and know that everything you want, if you take the steps. Not saying it's easy, but the steps will get you there.
Well, I'm going to be a devil's advocate, or in this case, as a Dookie, a Duke Blue Devils advocate, and that is to say that some things that are on people's minds, me particularly, is that our forefathers and we fought in different ways to uphold the rule of law and democracy. And our country is a situation where the rule of law does not seem to be as important to people as it has been historically when our forefathers and grandfathers and fathers fought in World War II or whatever war they fought involved with. So when we say, don't ask what the world needs, sometimes what the world needs is to have each and every one of us kick it in the butt a little bit to make things better. And I just wonder how you address the fact that there are some things that are beyond our immediate control that are concerning to us and frustrating to us.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack, but let's start with, first of all, you care deeply, and anyone that's watching this, if you care deeply, then when things aren't going the way you want, that's why we get so frustrated. You're a lawyer, you uphold the law, you uphold truth. And we live in a world where the truth has been a little twisted and mangled, and I don't even know what words I could use. So, people start to doubt, is it the truth? Is it not the truth? So just know that because people care so much, that's why it hurts so much. But then I always look at, the thing is, what can I do about it? First of all, is it fixable? There are things that aren't fixable, right? So things have been done. The fires in California, I mean, they're fixable, but we don't have in control that they're already, it's already burning. So we can't turn the clock back. We can only look forward. What can I do now? And that's what I want everyone to do. We spend too much time. We shoulda, coulda. This is wrong. That person, we place blame, or when I say, okay, stop. Can you do something about this? Yes, then do it. Do you have influence? Use it. If you don't, then it's backing up. What can I do in my sphere of influence? What can I do in my community? What can I do in my neighborhood, in my family? because every one of us does make a difference. And I know in the bigger picture, that sounds like it doesn't. And I'm going to say one more thing about our founding fathers. The other thing I think we've done with our democracy, which right or wrong, we've romanticized that these, our forefathers came together and they all got along and they wrote this beautiful document. And honestly, none of us were really there in the room. And like, if you read, like, what's the Lincoln book? Room of Rivals or whatever, the Dorothy Kearns book. I'm saying it right. You'll help.
Great book. Great book.
What's it called?
A Team of Rivals.
Right? They didn't get along. So we have this kind of thing that we were all kind of marching in the same direction back then, and we really weren't. So again, I am not a historian and I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I think the thing is to say, from where we are in our history right now, what do I control? Where do I have influence? And where can I make a difference? I'm speaking at a Girl Scout troop in 2 weeks, right? That's not, going to affect the people in Washington, but it's going to affect those Girl Scouts. So that's what I want people to back away from. I mean, everyone's touting their opinions on Facebook and stuff, and it's just angry. So unless you're going to post something that's going to help me with my life, I'm not reading it. And, I ask people to really take their power back. And when you take your power back, you start to see that regardless of what's going on, you do have power. And, if someone lost their house in a devastating fire, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying it's fun, but now what do I do now? Right? I think the worry of what's going to be and things that haven't happened keep most people spinning in this crazy cycle.
You have several, like you said before, unraveling a lot of thoughts you just had. I have a couple thoughts, and as you're talking, people should understand that this is how you and I talk, and it's like a conversation. That's why I enjoy you so much on my show. But when we were kids, do you remember the expression, Michele, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem? If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That was something that was a big thing.
Yeah. Well, but people think
you weren't born then yet, but
no, but I know that. And people have said it to me. You have a voice, Michele. You should use and I am using my voice just because I'm not spewing my opinions on public Facebook. And, I'm too sensitive. I don't want the wrath of people not, liking me and fighting with me. I know what I could do, but I'm touching people one person at a time, one classroom at a time, one coaching client at a time. There's this thing, if I'm not standing on my soapbox and fighting for freedom, that I don't care. That's not true, right? People can make a difference, and it doesn't have to be, that loud kind of thing. But so I do hear what you're saying, right? If you're not part of the problem, what did you say? If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. But it's making your impact in your way with what you have and what you can do.
There's a couple of quotes I have off the top of my head, and one is on Jackie Robinson, the famous baseball player who broke the color barrier. When he died young, the comment about him was, it's not how many years one has lived, it's how many lives one has touched.
You're getting a little mentally again, real quick.
Did I get mentally?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, is it still meddling robotically? It is. Okay, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to go on mute for a second and want you to comment.
Okay, I'm going to hold down the fort. Okay. So Bob is having technical difficulties. So I'm just going to talk about some things for the new year. That these are really small things. I mean, we're getting into really big topics here. Global fires, global politics, fires. But let's take it back down to each of us. We like fresh starts. So it's a really good time to make a fresh start. It's also proven that if you set a goal and you have somebody to hold you accountable, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goal. It's kind of like Weight Watchers. That's why Weight Watchers worked all those years ago. You had to go get on a scale in front of another human being. So whatever your goal is, if it's walking around the block, if it's, helping elderly people, if it's, getting donations for people in California, having an accountability partner helps. The third thing I want to talk to people about is just building your support system. We tend to be like the people we spend the most of our time with. So if you're with people that are complaining and angry and moaning and groaning, which again has become very popular, and sarcastic, we tend to be more sarcastic. So I always ask people to just do an audit. It's a great time of year to do an audit of the people that you spend the most time with. Do the people that you spend the most time with, are they helping you? Are they inspiring you to grow and be better? Or are they holding you back? For example, I know if I'm hanging out with my fast food friends, like I'm going to eat fast food, versus if I'm hanging out with my healthy friends, I'm more apt to eat healthy. Everybody in our life has a pretty big influence on our lives. Are you back, Bob?
I think I'm back. Am I back?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I was a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, when you said about second guessing oneself, Carrie Bradshaw, if you watch Sex and the City,
Of course I did.
used to always say, "Don't shoulda all over yourself. Don't shoulda all over yourself." And that's that. Now, one quote I did write down from your book is a quote about optimism. And you had said, become an optimist. And Winston Churchill once said, I'm reading right from page 106 of your book. See, I read your book carefully. It said, quote, a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Comment, please, Michele.
Yeah. So no matter where you are, if we go to politics, right? You know, we had Biden, now we're going to have Trump, and whether you were one or the other, so you could say, well, I was miserable for those 4 years, or I'm going to be miserable these 4 years, or you could say, I'm not measuring my happiness based on who's in the White House. I know I have more power and I can influence my sphere, right? Again, but that's like that pebble in the pond. So yes, looking for the opportunities. And another thing I'll say, Bob, when we were in our lockdown time, again, being the eternal optimist, I was looking for something optimistic. And I came across this old article called 10 Things We Owe to the Black Plague. And it was an article of all the things that came after the Black Plague in the 1800s. I can't remember when it was. But hospitals were invented, perfume was invented, local universities and colleges were invented, the middle class, comedies. So again, as an optimist, I know that this time in history is, we have to go through it. It is happening for us, and something positive will come of it. I mean, even if I'm on a tangent now, because all these thoughts are bubbling, even if we look at, there's a great documentary about the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and JP Morgan and how horrible they were to everybody. But yet their systems are what run America, the railroads and the banking system and, the steel. So it's realizing that sometimes things happen that we don't like, but they might be for good down the road that we don't
So
see.
so to speak, a silver lining, so to speak. And I
Yeah.
wanted to give you a connection about yesterday for me to show how I try to deal with different things that upset me in terms of our reality. I was very concerned that the Supreme Court was going to get involved in not allowing the New York judge to sentence President-elect Trump. And yet on that same day, so I was really ticked about that. And if you read my Facebook post, you could see that I wrote something about that. But then I spent the afternoon yesterday. I was honored to be a judge in the statewide mock trial that's done every year with high school students in the area. And an actual sitting judge and I were the judge in a case involving two school districts. And these youngsters from the age 14 to 18 who were high school students studied for months getting ready for their trial, and we judged it, and it was astounding to me the quality of the workmanship and the effort and the motivation of these students, and they did a great job. Even though one team won and one team lost, there were no winners. I'm sorry, there were no losers. Everyone was a winner. And the ironic thing is, we all know how much of a fan I am of Pepe's Pizza, but the fact pattern of the case involved a criminal matter involving one pizza owner allegedly killing another pizza owner for competition. So it was a very fun kind of afternoon. And just seeing these youngsters, and the judge and I both said, could I have done as well as they did in my first trial? And we said, not really. We couldn't have done it. So my point is that I was honored to do something. I had a chance to do it. And as bummed out as I was about what's happening in our Supreme Court, which is unbelievable, that's another story. But I had a chance to see youngsters who really followed the rule of law, who did the rules of objection, who and were honorable in they accepted the defeat. They didn't file an appeal to decide whether Opatzner and the other judge did it wrong. So that's how I take your lessons, Michele.
Yeah.
I almost said Obama, but I didn't.
Well, Michele, I'll take Michelle Obama any day. So
I love Michele Obama.
You hit on so many good things, and if you allow me, Bob, I'm going to take this example and talk about what we wrote on each other's Facebook post yesterday, the steps people can take. You were feeling negative emotion, and then you refocused your energy. And when you refocused your energy on something positive, you felt better. So these are the steps I give my clients. There's 5 steps. Anytime you're feeling negative emotion, it's first of all, come to the present moment and feel your senses. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I touching, smelling, hearing? And, come back. So when you could use your senses, it gets you out of your monkey brain. So you're worrying about the Supreme Court, your brain's, on, blender head, this isn't fair, and the ridiculous stuff that's going on. But then you come back to your senses, brings you back to the present moment. Step 1. Second step, is the fear fake or real? And meaning, am I in danger? Am I bleeding? Is somebody hurt? Is something, and if you're not in danger and there's nothing, like right now, the Supreme Court is out of your hands. So it's really, you're not in immediate danger. So step 2, I'm back in my body. I'm not in danger. The next step, which is the hardest step, I tell people, is stop worrying. Refuse to worry. There's a funny quote: if worry worked, we'd all be, wealthy, thin, and happy.
Michele, so we only have 1 minute left.
Oh, okay. Step 4. What's the outcome you want? And then do something, which is what you did.
Actually, I had a high school teacher, Mr. Shurin, who had a quote of the day every week, and one quote was, "Worry is like a rocking chair. It'll give you something to do, but it won't get you anyplace."
I love it. That's perfect. Perfect ending to this.
I want to close our show and sort of a prelude to our next show, and that is one of your habits is to be motivated with music, and I love that part. And if you've watched my show, which I know you do, I've been having on my show a lady named Jenny Grace, who's an up-and-coming singer, songwriter, whatever. And I love to talk to her. She's so upbeat. I like to talk to her about how she writes her songs, and listening to her music makes me feel relaxed. Michele Phillips, the Light Lady, you are a pleasure in my life, and I really appreciate how we got to meet each other. That was like from heaven, spiritually, whatever.
Yes, it was.
It was spiritually. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. You'll be on the show at least 5 times more this year, if not more. And I want to thank you for giving us some tips on how to feel better about life. And if people want to just read about you without selling your book, we can't promote your book, but do you have a website or something that people could look at to read about?
Yeah, if you go to energizeyourresults.com, you'll see all my different things that they could look. That's they can read.
Michele, you're dear. Thank you so very much.
I love doing this with you, so thank you for inviting me.
And thank you, Candy Ann, for being the director today. This is Bob Opatz to wish you a healthy and happy New Year. Hoshana Tova.
Thank you. Happy New Year.